Hey everybody, welcome back. This is iteration 2, part 5 of module, not 5, module 1. Anyway, we got one problem called get string length. We have an input string, we have to find the length, but we cannot use any of the native length methods. So iterating over the string using the length method to count them up that way is out, as is making the string into an array using split and then counting them up that way, because we would need a length for both of those. So it says you might consider using substring or slice as alternatives. Now, as for the substring approach, it's going to be relatively similar, but here's what we're going to do. The first idea is that we need a counter. So we'll say create counter variable. And at the very end, we will have counted up the length in some fashion, so we'll return that counter variable. Now, iteration almost exclusively so far has meant a for loop, or iterating over an array, but iteration doesn't necessarily mean that. It means to do something over and over again. I don't know if anybody remembers carefully or remembers with any sort of precision the while loop, but a while loop will allow us to do something until a condition is satisfied. Now, a for loop does pretty much the same thing, but it's designed well, it's not designed. Let's say that ordinarily we mostly see for loops used to iterate with that same create an index variable, make sure the index variable doesn't go past the end of the array or past some value, and then after each iteration, increment the index variable by 1. Now, for our purposes, we can't really do that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use slice to more or less chop our string to chop off, let's say, the first letter in the string until there is no string. So while we have like a string with some length, which means that we still can do some chopping. And we'll say chop the string using, or let's say chop the first character of the string using slice. And a lot of times if you're talking about for loops versus while loops, we have to make sure that we put something in there to ensure that at some point the while loop will stop. But what we've done on line 5 and 4 will actually do that. So now that we have what I am going to posit is a complete set of pseudocode, let's code it out. Create our counter, we'll return our counter, and then our while loop is going to be while the string is equal or is not equal to an empty string. Eventually we will chop it to an empty string, but for now, let's consider, the thing is though is that while loops are very prone towards infinite loops. In the event that you didn't satisfactorily do something inside of the while loop, which will eventually end it, it'll go for an infinite loop. Usually ends up crashing your browser. If that happens, we won't really worry about it that much because you'll probably never see this video. But if it happens to you, usually just closing the window that you're working on or quitting your browser and refreshing will get the job done. So chop the character of the string using slice. Now, you may remember that slice does not do anything to the item upon which it's been called. Actually, can we use slice on a string? Slice on a string MDN. String prototype.slice. So it looks like we can use that. The slice method extracts a section of the string and returns it as a new string without modifying the original. So if that's the case, we're going to need to make sure that we say string is equal to string.slice. And what we want to do is we want to slice everything except for the first letter. So now that we've done that, we're going to hit run and either break this and you'll never see this video, or it'll work and we're going to be in good shape. Error, try again. Should not use the native length operator. That's not accurate. Should return the length of the string. Okay, so we missed a couple of things. One, just in case you're curious, the way that this these tests, I think, are written is that it's going to look for the word length. So we'll change this to say distance. Because it's actually just going to stringify the entire function that you have. Basically just turn it all into one long string and then check to see if length is in there. I'm probably going to go in there and change that so it says dot length because it shouldn't really make a difference if you say length. And it says length here too, so that's probably a poorly written test. But one of the things that we didn't do we did make sure that the while loop will end, but we never actually incremented the counter. Each time that we cut the string, we want to make sure that we register that we have now incremented the counter by 1. So let's run our tests, and we're in good shape. I'm going to go in there and try to adjust that so that you can write the word length in a comment, but if not, just make sure that there is no length inside of your function at any point. So there's our code. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.